The poor girl climbed into the rich man's coma bed. What happened next left everyone speechless. Melissa Johnson couldn't stop trembling as she held the calloused hand of her daughter, Emma. The hallway of Mercy General Hospital, the most expensive in New York City, was completely silent, broken only by the sound of monitors echoing through the rooms. For 3 weeks, she had been working there as a night cleaner, a job she managed to get after much begging, lying about her address so they wouldn't find out she lived in the South Bronx projects. That early morning, something completely unexpected happened. Emma, just 8 years old, had slipped away from supervision in the lobby, where she waited for her mother to finish her shift and gone up to the 8th floor. When head nurse Patricia Wilson found her, the girl was sitting on the bed in room 815, gently holding the hand of a man who had been in a coma for 3 months. What most impressed everyone was that the patient's heart monitors showed a significant change in heartbeat, something that hadn't happened since he had been admitted to the hospital. Patricia tried to get the girl out of the bed, but Emma refused to leave. "Please, ma'am, he can hear me," whispered the girl, not letting go of the man's hand. "I know him. He promised me something very important." "Child, you can't be here. This gentleman is very sick and—" "He's not sick," interrupted Emma, looking directly at Patricia with a disconcerting maturity in her eyes. "He's sad. Very, very sad. That's why he doesn't want to wake up." Patricia felt a chill run down her spine. In 20 years of working, she had never witnessed anything like it. The man in the bed was Richard Anderson, a 45-year-old businessman, owner of a chain of department stores that spread across the whole country. He had suffered a car accident during a business trip and had remained in a vegetative state ever since. His wife, Jennifer Anderson, rarely visited, always accompanied by lawyers, discussing matters about the company and inheritance. "How do you know Mr. Richard?" asked Patricia, kneeling beside the bed. Emma hesitated for a moment, looking at the man's serene face. "He used to go to the place where I lived before, a big place with lots of children. He always brought toys and candy, but he never stayed long. He always asked about Sarah." Patricia's eyes widened. Sarah was a name she had heard before, but she couldn't remember where. "Who is Sarah?" "She was my friend. She stayed in the room next to mine at the shelter, but she left a long time ago. Uncle Richard always asked about her, and he got very sad when I told him she wasn't there anymore." At that moment, Melissa came running into the room, desperate and with tears in her eyes. "Emma, my God, you scared me so much." She stopped at the door when she saw the scene. "I'm sorry, ma'am, my daughter must have gotten lost. She didn't mean to bother anyone." Patricia looked at Melissa, noticing her humble clothes and the tiredness on her face. "Do you work here?" "I'm on the night cleaning crew. I started 3 weeks ago. I usually leave Emma with a neighbor, but today she couldn't watch her, so I brought her secretly. I promise it won't happen again." "Mom," said Emma, still holding Richard's hand, "Uncle Richard is here because he's looking for someone. He told me." Melissa approached the bed, confused. "Honey, this gentleman has been asleep for a long time. He couldn't have told you anything." "He didn't speak with his mouth," explained Emma with a child's simplicity. "He spoke here," and she pointed to her heart. "He's looking for a girl named Sarah. She had a bracelet just like this one." Emma opened the small backpack she was carrying and took out a golden bracelet with small engraved hearts. Patricia Wilson immediately recognized the object, as she had seen an identical one on Richard Anderson's wrist when he was admitted to the hospital. "Where did you get this bracelet?" asked Patricia, taking the object in her hands. "Sarah gave it to me before she left. She said that if a man ever came looking for her, I should show this to him." Melissa Johnson felt that something very strange was happening, but couldn't understand what. She had worked for years cleaning offices around the city, always taking Emma along when she had no one to leave her with. The girl had always been observant and smart, but had never shown this kind of behavior. "Did Sarah say anything else?" insisted Patricia. "She said the man with the bracelet would be very sad when he came, because he had looked for her his whole life, and that she wanted him to know she never forgot him." Richard Anderson's heart monitor began beeping faster. Patricia quickly checked the vital signs and was amazed. The blood pressure had risen, but steadily, and the brain activity showed spikes that hadn't appeared in months. "This is impossible," murmured Patricia. "Dr. Roberts needs to see this." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. When Dr. Michael Roberts, the neurologist in charge of the case, arrived in the room 20 minutes later, he found a scene that left him perplexed. Emma had fallen asleep in the chair beside the bed, but still held Richard's hand. The monitors showed the most intense activity he had recorded since the beginning of the treatment. "Patricia, explain to me what's happening here," requested the doctor, observing the graphs on the computer. "Doctor, I know it will sound strange, but ever since this girl arrived, Mr. Anderson started to react. She says she knows him from a shelter where she lived." Doctor Roberts examined Richard carefully, checking reflexes and pupil responses. To his surprise, he noticed more evident eye movements and a slight muscle contraction when light hit the patient's face. "How long has she been here?" "About 2 hours." "And the vital signs improved progressively during this time?" "Yes, doctor. I checked every 15 minutes. Dr. Roberts approached Melissa, who remained standing in the corner of the room, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "Ma'am, I need to understand this story better. Did your daughter really know Mr. Anderson?" "Doctor, I don't know. Emma lived in a municipal shelter until she was 6, when I got full custody of her. It was in Park Slope. She always talked about a man who visited the children, but I thought it was a child's fantasy." "What kind of things did she say about this man?" Melissa sat in the other chair in the room, nervously holding her hands. "She said he was very handsome and smelled of expensive perfume, that he brought presents for all the children, but spent more time talking with one specific girl, the Sarah she mentioned. And what else? Emma always said he cried in secret, that he asked if Sarah liked him and if she talked about her father." Dr. Roberts felt a lump in his throat. During his conversations with Jennifer Anderson, he had noticed that the couple had no children and the wife always avoided talking about the subject. Richard had maintained a melancholy expression even before the accident, according to reports from hospital staff. At that moment, Emma woke up startled and looked directly at Dr. Roberts. "Will the doctor help Uncle Richard wake up?" "I'll do my best, sweetheart. Can you tell me more about your friend Sarah?" Emma got up and walked to the window of the room, which overlooked the busy Fifth Avenue. Sarah was the prettiest of all the girls at the shelter. She had very long dark hair and green eyes, just like Uncle Richard. She always said her father would come back for her. Did she say what her father looked like? She would show a photo, a tall man with a beard, just like Uncle Richard. She kept the photo inside a storybook. Dr. Roberts looked at Richard in the bed. The resemblance Emma described made perfect sense. The businessman had exactly those physical characteristics. Did Sarah say where she was going when she left the shelter? She got sick and had to go to a hospital. The shelter caretakers said she needed special treatment. She gave me the bracelet and asked me to give it to her father if he ever showed up. Do you know which hospital it was? No, but I remember it was far away. She cried a lot when she left. Patricia, who had been following the conversation in silence, approached the group. "Doctor, I can check the hospital records to see if we had any patient by that name. If she was sick, she might have come through here." "Good idea. Check patients from the last 5 years named Sarah. Look especially for cases of children transferred from municipal shelters." While Patricia left to do the research, Dr. Roberts continued talking with Emma. "Do you remember anything else about Uncle Richard's visits to the shelter? He always came in the late afternoon when we were doing our homework. He brought snacks for everyone, but he only talked with Sarah. She was always so happy when he arrived." "What did they talk about?" "About school, about the drawings she made. He always asked if she was being well cared for, if she had everything she needed. And he asked about her mother." Melissa interrupted the conversation. "Her mother? Emma, you never told me about Sarah's mother." Sarah said her mother had gone traveling and was coming back to get her. But Uncle Richard always looked sad when she talked about her mother. Dr. Roberts began putting the puzzle pieces together. A wealthy man visiting a specific child at a shelter with physical characteristics similar to his own, asking for information about the girl's mother. It was very likely that Sarah was Richard's daughter. Patricia returned to the room with a file in her hands and a somber expression on her face. "Doctor, I found the record. Sarah Miller, 8 years old, was admitted to our hospital 2 years ago with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She was transferred from the Park Slope Municipal Shelter." "And what happened to her?" Patricia hesitated before answering, looking at Emma. She didn't respond to the treatment. She passed away 18 months ago." The silence that fell over the room was unsettling. Emma looked at Patricia with tears in her eyes. "Is Sarah not coming back?" "No, sweetheart," Patricia replied gently. "She got very sick and couldn't get better." Emma went over to Richard in the bed and held his hand again. "That's why he's so sad," she murmured. He was looking for her, but she was already gone. Dr. Roberts stepped aside with Patricia to speak privately. "Patricia, I need you to check for more information about Sarah, especially about who her legal guardians were and who authorized the treatment." "I already checked, Doctor. The treatment was authorized and paid for in full by a private individual, Richard Anderson." The revelation was explosive. Dr. Roberts was now certain that Sarah was Richard's daughter, and that he had assumed all the costs of the treatment in an attempt to save her. "There's one more thing, Doctor," Patricia continued. "The records show that Sarah specifically asked that if anything happened to her, we should look for a girl named Emma at the same shelter to deliver a letter." "A letter?" "Yes. It's among Sarah's personal belongings, which were kept here at the hospital." No one had gone to get them. Dr. Roberts looked at Emma, who was still whispering to Richard, as if he could hear her. "Bring the letter, Patricia. I think it's time to deliver it." When Patricia returned with a small yellowed envelope, the whole family present in the room gathered. Dr. Roberts carefully opened it and read the contents aloud. "Hi, Emma. If you're reading this, it's because I couldn't wait for you to grow up for us to meet again. I really wanted you to give this message to the man with the bracelet when he came looking for me. Tell him I always knew he was my father, and that I loved him very much even though we didn't live together. Tell him Mom told me they loved each other very much, but she had to leave to protect me from bad people. And tell him I hid the photos he gave me from the shelter aunts. They're sewn inside my teddy bear. Emma, you're my best friend and I want you to be happy. Kisses, Sarah." Tears streamed down the faces of everyone in the room. Emma held the letter to her chest, finally understanding the importance of the meeting with Richard. "Where is the teddy bear?" asked Dr. Roberts. "It's with the other belongings," replied Patricia. "I'll go get it." While they waited, Emma approached Richard again. "Uncle Richard, I brought Sarah's message for you. She loves you very much and wants you to know that she always knew you were her daddy." At that moment, something extraordinary happened. A tear rolled down Richard's face, and his lips moved slightly, as if he wanted to speak. Dr. Roberts ran to the bed and checked the vital signs. Brain activity was at levels indicating partial consciousness. "Richard, if you can hear me, try to squeeze Emma's hand." To everyone's astonishment, Richard gently squeezed the girl's hand. Patricia arrived with Sarah's teddy bear. It was a brown bear, very worn by time and affection. Emma took it in her hands and felt something stiff inside. "There's something in here," she said, handing the toy to Dr. Roberts. Carefully, he found a small opening in the fabric and removed a plastic envelope with several photographs. They were photos of Richard with a young, beautiful woman and some of Sarah as a child at different ages. "My God," murmured Patricia. "Look at the dates on the photos." The oldest photos dated back 18 years, showing a much younger Richard next to a woman who was clearly Sarah's mother. The most recent ones were of Sarah alone, apparently taken during visits to the shelter. Dr. Roberts understood that he was facing a story of love and loss much more complex than he had imagined. Richard had been separated from the woman he loved, possibly pregnant, and had spent years searching for the daughter he never had the chance to raise. Emma looked at the photos and then at Richard. Sarah looked just like her mum, and the eyes are just like yours, Uncle Richard. Another tear rolled down Richard's face, and this time he managed to open his eyes slightly, focusing his gaze on Emma. "He's waking up!" shouted Patricia, running to check the equipment. Dr. Roberts began to perform basic neurological tests. Richard could move his eyes and respond to simple commands by squeezing hands. "Richard, My name is Dr. Roberts. You've been in the hospital for 3 months. Can you understand me? A firm squeeze of the hand confirmed yes. This is Emma. She knew your daughter Sarah. Richard turned his gaze to Emma and tried to move his lips. With great effort, he managed to whisper, Sarah. She asked me to give you this, said Emma, placing the golden bracelet in Richard's hand. When he touched the bracelet, something broke inside him. Abundant tears began to stream down, and he managed to utter other words. My daughter. She loved you very much, said Emma, kissing his forehead, and she wanted you to know that she never forgot you. Dr. Roberts was moved, but maintained his medical focus. Richard, you need to rest now, but I promise that Emma will keep visiting you during your recovery. Really, Doctor? Asked Emma eagerly. Of course. In fact, I think you'll be crucial to Uncle Richard's recovery. Melissa, who had watched everything in silence, approached the doctor. Doctor, can I keep bringing Emma to visit him, even after I finish my work here? Ma'am, what your daughter did today was extraordinary. She literally brought a man back to life. Of course you can keep visiting. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the following weeks, the routine at Mercy General Hospital changed completely. Emma visited Richard every day after school, always accompanied by Melissa. His recovery was surprisingly fast. In a week, he was already speaking full sentences. In 2 weeks, he was sitting up in bed. In a month, he was doing physical therapy, walking through the hallways. During this time, Richard told his story to Emma, Melissa, and Dr. Roberts. 18 years ago, he had fallen madly in love with Rebecca Miller, a young education student. They dated for 2 years and even got engaged. Rebecca became pregnant and both were excited about the marriage and the baby's arrival. However, Rebecca had an ex-boyfriend named Tyler Robinson, who had gotten involved with drugs and illegal activities. When Tyler discovered Rebecca's pregnancy, he began threatening her and Richard. He claimed the child was his and that he would do anything to stop the wedding. One night, Tyler broke into Rebecca's house with 2 accomplices. They didn't physically hurt her, but threatened her, saying that if she didn't disappear from Richard's life, something terrible would happen to the baby after birth. Rebecca, terrified and wanting to protect her daughter, made a drastic decision. She fled New York City without telling Richard, leaving only a letter saying she didn't love him anymore, and that the child wasn't his. Richard, devastated, tried to look for her for months, but she had completely vanished. I never believed that letter, Richard told Emma while she arranged the flowers she had brought to the room. I knew Rebecca too well. She loved me, I was sure of it. Something had happened. What did you do? I hired private detectives. I searched for years, until 3 years ago I discovered she had registered a daughter at a municipal shelter, using only her last name. Richard stopped speaking, emotional. Was it Sarah? It was my Sarah. Rebecca had placed the girl in the shelter when she was just 2 years old. The record said the mother couldn't care for her daughter. And Mrs. Rebecca, what happened to her? Richard sighed deeply. When I found Sarah, I tried to locate Rebecca through the shelter records. I discovered she had moved to the countryside, to a small town near Westchester. She worked as a teacher in a rural school. Did you visit her? I did. When we met, Rebecca told me the whole truth about the threats. She had run away to protect Sarah, but could never overcome the guilt of having abandoned her daughter. Why didn't she bring Sarah back? She was sick, Emma. Very sick. She had stomach cancer and knew she wouldn't live long. That's why she decided to tell me about Sarah. She wanted me to take care of our daughter. Emma held Richard's hand, noticing the pain in his eyes. And were you able to take care of her? I tried, sweetheart. I visited Sarah at the shelter regularly, brought her presents, talked with her. But adoption laws are complicated. Since she was only registered under her mother's name and Rebecca was too sick to handle the legal paperwork, the process was stuck. Did Sarah know you were her father? Yes, she did. I told her during one of our last conversations. She was very happy and told me she always knew because Rebecca had shown her pictures of me since she was little. Richard stopped to wipe away the tears that had begun to fall. I was finalizing the adoption papers when Sarah started feeling tired and in pain. I took her for tests, and we discovered the leukemia. Did you take care of her during the treatment? I did. I paid for the best doctors, the best treatments. Sarah was hospitalized here for almost a year. I spent every day with her. And Mrs. Jennifer, did she know about Sarah? Richard hesitated before answering. This was a part of the story he hadn't told anyone yet. Jennifer and I got married 5 years ago. It was a marriage of convenience to unite our companies. She knew I had been looking for Rebecca for years, but she didn't know about Sarah until she got sick. How did she react? Badly. Very badly. Jennifer always wanted to have children, but we found out she couldn't get pregnant. When she found out I had a daughter, she was furious, said I had lied to her our entire marriage. But you didn't know about Sarah when you got married. Exactly. But Jennifer didn't see it that way. She started visiting Sarah at the hospital, but I could tell it was more out of jealousy than genuine affection. Emma processed all this information. Though she was just a child, she had lived through enough hard times to understand emotional complexities. Uncle Richard, what happened on the day of your accident? Richard closed his eyes, as if trying to block out a painful memory. It was 3 months after Sarah passed. I was driving to Westchester to visit Rebecca's grave. Jennifer and I had a terrible fight that morning. She said I needed to stop living in the past and accept that Sarah was gone. Did you fight a lot? It was our worst fight. Jennifer gave me an ultimatum. Either I forgot about Sarah and Rebecca and started our life over, or she would file for divorce and take half the company. And what did you say? I said I would never forget my daughter, that Sarah would always be the most important thing in my life, even if she wasn't here anymore. Richard stopped talking, clearly shaken by the memory. I left the house driving very upset. It was raining hard, and I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah, about how she had asked me to find you before she passed. Sarah talked to you about me. She did. She told me she had a very special friend at the shelter, a brave and smart girl named Emma. She said you were like sisters and that she worried about you. What else did she say? That you deserved to have a real family. And she made me promise that if I ever found you, I would take care of you, like I would have taken care of her. Emma felt a mixture of joy and sadness. Knowing that Sarah had thought of her gave a new meaning to the whole situation. Is that why you had the accident? Were you thinking about those things? I was. I lost focus for a few seconds, and the next thing I knew, my car was skidding on the wet road. I hit the guardrail and rolled over 3 times. Do you remember the accident? I remember everything up to the moment of impact. After that, I only woke up when you showed up here at the hospital. At that moment, Patricia entered the room to check Richard's vital signs. How are you feeling today, Mr. Richard? Better every day, Patricia. Thanks to Emma. Patricia Wilson smiled as she watched the girl arranging the flowers in the vase. Emma, would you like to know something interesting? Since you started visiting Mr. Richard, he's had the fastest recovery we've ever seen at this hospital. Really? Truly. Dr. Roberts said it's as if you gave him a reason to return to life. Richard looked at Emma affectionately. Patricia is right. When I first heard your voice talking about Sarah, I felt there was still a mission for me to complete. The promise I made to my daughter. What promise, Uncle Richard? To take care of you, Emma. To give you the family Sarah wanted you to have. Emma's eyes widened. What do you mean? I want to adopt you, little one. I want you to be my daughter. The silence that fell in the room was broken by Patricia, who couldn't contain her emotion. That's beautiful, she said, wiping her eyes. Emma looked at Melissa Johnson, who had been silently following the entire conversation. Mom, what do you think? Melissa approached the bed, nervously wringing her hands. Mr. Richard, you are a good man that I can see, and I know you can give Emma things I could never give her. Melissa. But she is my daughter, you know. I fought for 3 years to get custody of her. I worked 2 jobs to support her. It might not be a luxurious life, but it's a life with lots of love. Richard understood Melissa's feelings perfectly. Melissa, I don't want to take Emma from you. I want both of you to be part of my family. What do you mean? You can come work in the administration of my stores, with a salary that will allow you to give Emma a decent life without needing to work 2 jobs. Melissa was speechless. And Emma can study at the best schools, have all the opportunities she deserves, but still living with you if that's what you both want. You would do that for us? I would do it for Sarah, and because you both brought hope back into my life. Emma hugged Melissa and then Richard. So we're going to be a family. We are, little one, a family that Sarah would have approved of. At that moment, a familiar voice echoed from the doorway. Richard, we need to talk. Everyone turned to see Jennifer Anderson standing at the entrance. She was elegantly dressed, as always, but there was something different in her expression. Jennifer, said Richard tensely, I wasn't expecting your visit. I imagine not, especially with this family gathering happening here. Patricia stood up, sensing the tension in the room. Perhaps it's better if I come back later. No need to leave, Patricia, said Jennifer. What I have to say can be said in front of everyone. She entered the room and closed the door behind her. Richard, I've spent the last 3 months thinking about our last conversation, about everything that happened. Jennifer, this isn't the time. It is the time. I need to apologize. Everyone was surprised by the statement. Apologize for what? For being selfish, for trying to erase the memory of Sarah from your life, for not understanding that you were grieving and needed my support, not my ultimatums. Jennifer approached the bed, looking at Emma. And you must be Emma, the special friend Sarah always mentioned when I visited her. You visited Sarah. Yes, I did. And she talked about you a lot. She said you were brave and that you never gave up on your dreams. Emma smiled timidly. Sarah was very brave too. She was indeed, agreed Jennifer. And you know what? She told me once that she hoped your father would find you after she was gone. She said that? She did. Sarah thought that you and Richard could help each other, that you needed a father and he needed someone to love and protect. Richard looked surprised at Jennifer. You never told me that. Because I was jealous, Richard. Jealous of a child who was leaving. I'm so ashamed of it now. Jennifer sat in the chair next to the bed. During these months you were in a coma, I had time to think about what kind of person I had become. Sarah, even while sick, was wiser and more generous than me. Jennifer, let me finish. I came here today to say that I completely support your decision to care for Emma and Melissa. In fact, I want to help. Help how? I want you to come live in our house. The mansion is too big for just the 2 of us, and it could be a home for this new family that Sarah wanted you to form. Emma looked at Melissa, then at Richard. We could live in the mansion. You could, replied Jennifer, and I promised to be the aunt that Sarah would have wanted me to be for you. Melissa was clearly confused by the whole situation. Mrs. Jennifer, this is very generous, but Melissa, I know you must be worried. You don't know me, and you have every right to be suspicious of my intentions. It's not suspicion, it's just, this is all so much for me. Yesterday I was a cleaning lady worried about paying the rent at the end of the month. Today I'm being offered a life I never dreamed of. Richard understood Melissa's difficulty. Melissa, you don't have to decide anything right now. How about you get to know our proposal better first? What do you mean? Jennifer and I can take you to see the house this weekend. Emma can see where her room would be, see the garden, the swimming pool. You can see the facilities at the company where you would work. And if after seeing everything you decide you prefer to continue your life as it is now, we will respect that, Jennifer added. Emma held Melissa's hand. Mom, Sarah wanted us to be happy. Maybe it's time to accept that good things can happen to us too. Melissa looked into her daughter's eyes and saw a maturity that impressed her. All right, we'll go see your proposal. Dr. Roberts, who had arrived during the conversation, interrupted the moment. Richard, I have good news. Your tests show a complete recovery. You can be discharged tomorrow. Really? Really? Your reflexes are normal. Your motor coordination has completely returned, and the neurological exams show no after effects from the accident. Emma clapped her hands, excited. Uncle Richard is getting out of the hospital. Yes, I am, little one. And do you know what the first thing I'm going to do is? What? I'm going to take you to visit Sarah's grave. I want you to say goodbye to her in person and tell her I kept my promise to find you. Tears streamed down the faces of everyone in the room. Can I bring flowers for her? You can bring the most beautiful ones we can find. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now. Continuing. The following Saturday, Richard was discharged from the hospital. Emma and Melissa waited for him in the lobby, accompanied by Jennifer. The businessman looked like a completely different man from the one who had been admitted 3 months earlier. There was life in his eyes and a genuine smile on his face. "Ready to see our house?" Jennifer asked Emma. "Ready." The trip to the Anderson mansion, located in a luxury-gated community in Scarsdale, was marked by Emma's excitement. She asked questions about everything she saw out the car window, and Richard answered patiently, clearly happy with the girl's curiosity. Melissa, on the other hand, was more reserved. She watched the huge houses passing by the window and wondered if she would really fit into that world. When they arrived at the property, Emma was speechless. The house was indeed a mansion, with an impeccable garden, a large swimming pool, and a breathtaking view. "Is this where you live?" "This is where we live," corrected Richard, emphasizing the we. Jennifer made sure to show Emma and Melissa every room in the house. The room that would be Emma's was on the 2nd floor, with a view of the garden and a private bathroom. It was bigger than the entire house they lived in back in the South Bronx projects. "Emma, want to see something special?" asked Jennifer, opening a closet door. Inside the closet were several new clothes, all in Emma's size. "This is for me. Sarah helped me choose. She once told me what your favorite style of clothing was." Sarah helped. Before she left, she showed me a photo of the two of you together. She said you always dreamed of a blue dress like the one she was wearing in the picture. Look over there in the corner. Emma ran to the corner of the closet and found a light blue dress, exactly like the one Sarah was wearing in the photo they had taken at the shelter. "It's exactly the same. Sarah specifically asked me to buy this dress for you, if we ever found you one day." Emma hugged the dress to her chest, moved. "She thought of me even while she was sick." "She thought of you a lot, dear," replied Richard, who had arrived in the room. "Sarah made me promise several things before she left. One of them was to make sure you had the dress of your dreams." Melissa watched everything with a mix of joy and worry. She saw Emma's happiness, but still had a hard time believing it was all real. "Melissa, would you like to see your space in the house?" asked Jennifer. "My space?" "Of course. You are Emma's mother. This house will be your home too." Jennifer took Melissa to a set of rooms on the 1st floor, a spacious bedroom, a study, and a bathroom. Everything was decorated with elegance but without being over the top. "This would be my room?" "It would. And the study is for you to be able to study. Richard told me you always dreamed of going to college." Melissa was surprised. "He said that?" "He did. And we would like to pay for your studies. What course would you like to take?" I always wanted to study nursing. I like taking care of people. Nursing is a beautiful profession, and with your degree, you could work in the healthcare area of our stores, looking after the well-being of the employees." Melissa sat on the bed, still processing everything. "Why are you doing all this for us?" Jennifer sat down beside her. "Melissa, I'll be honest with you. For a long time I was a selfish person. I was so focused on what I wanted that I forgot to think about what was right." "I don't understand." "Richard lost the chance to raise Sarah. He suffered a lot because of that. When your daughter came into his life, it was as if Sarah had sent an angel to heal the wounds in his heart." Melissa listened attentively. "Sarah taught me that truly loving someone means wanting their happiness, even if that doesn't include your own plans." "She taught you that?" "She did. Do you know what she told me in the last conversation we had?" "What?" "That she knew I wanted to have children, and that if she couldn't stay to be Richard's daughter, she hoped he would find someone who needed a father as much as she did." Melissa felt tears in her eyes. "Sarah said that?" "She did. And more. She said that if I truly loved Richard, I would help him find that person, because being a father was his dream. At that moment, Emma ran into the room, wearing the blue dress. "Mom, look how it turned out." Melissa stood up and straightened the dress on her daughter. "You look beautiful, sweetheart. Can I wear it to visit Sarah?" "Of course you can," replied Richard, coming in behind her. "She would be so happy to see you in that dress." Jennifer stood up and turned to Melissa. "Melissa, I understand if you need time to think. This is a very important decision." "Mrs. Jennifer, may I ask a question?" "Of course. Aren't you jealous about sharing your home with us?" Jennifer smiled. "You know, Melissa, I spent so many years being jealous that I forgot how good it feels to have a real family. Richard and I had a big, empty house, full of silence. You brought life into our home." "Life how?" Emma filled our house with laughter. "You brought genuine affection and gratitude, and Richard." Richard started smiling again. Melissa looked at Emma, who was playing at dancing in her dress. "Emma, what do you think? Do you want to live here with Uncle Richard and Aunt Jennifer?" "I do, Mom, but only if you want to, too." "Why only if I want to?" "Because Sarah taught me that family is when everyone wants to be together. If you don't want to be here, I don't either." Richard approached the group. "Emma, what do you think about us becoming a very different kind of family? A family where you have a mother who loves you very much, a father who promised to always protect you, and an aunt who wants to teach you to be strong and brave, like Sarah was." "Like Sarah was." Emma looked at each of the adults in the room. "I think Sarah would be happy to know we became a family." "I think so too," said Melissa, finally making her decision. "We accept your offer." Richard hugged Melissa and Emma at the same time. "Welcome to the family." Jennifer joined the hug. "Sarah would be proud of us." The following Monday, Richard kept his promise to take Emma to visit Sarah. The cemetery was in a quiet area of the city, and Sarah's grave was in a spot overlooking a small lake. Emma had prepared a bouquet of yellow flowers, which were her friend's favorite, and a letter she had written the night before. "Uncle Richard, can I read the letter to her?" "Of course, little one." Emma knelt before the grave and began to read. "Hi, Sarah, it's Emma. Uncle Richard brought me to visit you. I want to tell you that you were right about him being a good man. He took care of me like you asked, and now we are a family. My mom is studying nursing like she always dreamed. Uncle Richard takes me to school every day, and Aunt Jennifer is teaching me to play the piano. You would be happy to know that Aunt Jennifer has become a very caring person. She even put a picture of us in her room. I'm wearing the blue dress you picked out for me. I know you're in a beautiful place now, and I want you to know I will never forget you. Thank you for taking care of me even when you were sick. Thank you for asking Uncle Richard to find me, and thank you for teaching me that family is who we choose to love. I love you forever, your best friend, Emma." Richard was too emotional to speak. He knelt beside Emma and placed his own letter on the grave. "Sarah, Daddy is here. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you, my daughter, but I promise I will take care of Emma like you asked. She brought me back to life, just like you knew she would. Thank you for teaching me that a father's love doesn't end when a person is gone. Thank you for giving me a second chance to be a father. I love you forever, Dad." They stayed for a few minutes in silence, each with their own thoughts and memories. "Uncle Richard, do you think Sarah can see us?" "I think so, little one. And I think she's happy seeing our family together." "I think so too." As they were getting ready to leave, Emma noticed something strange. "Uncle Richard, look at that lady over there." Richard looked in the direction Emma was pointing and saw an elderly woman watching them from a distance. She was simply dressed and held a small bouquet of flowers. "I'll go talk to her," said Richard. He approached the woman, who seemed hesitant. "Excuse me, ma'am. Did you know Sarah, ma'am?" The woman looked at Richard with tears in her eyes. "I'm Mrs. Reynolds. I was the coordinator of the shelter where Sarah and Emma lived." "Mrs. Reynolds," shouted Emma, running to hug the woman. "Emma, my dear girl, how you've grown." "Mrs. Reynolds, this is Uncle Richard, Sarah's father." The woman looked at Richard with an indescribable expression. "Mr. Richard, Sarah spoke of you often. She said you were the most handsome and caring man in the world. Mrs. Reynolds, why did you never tell me you knew Sarah when I visited the shelter?" Because Sarah asked me not to. She wanted to be sure you were looking for her out of love, not obligation. Richard was confused. What do you mean? Sarah was afraid that if you knew she was your daughter, you would adopt her only out of responsibility. She wanted you to choose her because you liked her as a person. But I did choose her. She knew that. She knew when you told her you were her father. That day, she called me crying with happiness, saying you truly loved her. Emma held Mrs. Reynolds's hand. Do you come to visit Sarah often? I come every Monday. It was her favorite day at the shelter, because she said Mondays were days for new beginnings. Would you like to have lunch with us? Asked Richard. I would love to hear more stories about Sarah. I would be delighted. During lunch at a restaurant near the cemetery, Mrs. Reynolds told several stories about Sarah and Emma at the shelter. Richard discovered details about his daughter's personality that he had never known. Sarah was the most determined girl I ever met, shared Mrs. Reynolds. When she set her mind to something, there was no force in the world that could make her change it. What kind of things did she set her mind to? Once a family was interested in adopting Emma. Sarah was desperate because she knew Emma didn't want to go. She organized all the other children to show the family how happy Emma was at the shelter, and that it would be better to wait for a family that Emma truly wanted. And did it work? It worked. The family understood and gave up on the adoption. Sarah said Emma deserved a family that chose her for who she was, not out of convenience. Emma listened to the stories attentively. Mrs. Reynolds, did Sarah know she was going to get sick? She didn't, dear. But a few weeks before she started feeling symptoms, she began asking me strange questions. What kind of questions? She wanted to know what happened to the belongings of children who left the shelter. If we kept photos, letters, toys, it was as if she was preparing to leave something behind. Richard became interested. Did she leave anything? She left a box with letters, one for every important person in her life. There was one for you, Emma, which you've already received. There was one for me, one for some of the children at the shelter. And was there one for me? Yes, Mr. Richard. In fact, there were two. One for you to read if she didn't get better, and another for you to read if she got well. Do you still have those letters? I do. Sarah asked me to give them to you only if you found Emma. She said the letters would only make sense if you were together. Richard and Emma looked at each other. Can you give us the letters? I can. In fact, I brought them with me today. I had a feeling you would be here. Mrs. Reynolds opened her purse and took out 2 sealed envelopes. One was written, "For Daddy with love," and the other, "For Daddy, if I get well." Which one should I read first? Sarah said you would know which one to read when the time came. Richard held the 2 envelopes, feeling the weight of responsibility. He decided to open first the letter, "For Daddy, with love." Daddy, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get to stay and grow up with you. I know you must be very sad, but I want you to know that the months we spent together were the happiest of my life. Finally, I had a real father who loved me like I always dreamed. I want you to know some important things. First, Mommy told me the whole truth about why she left. She didn't leave because she didn't love you. She left because she loved you too much to let bad people hurt you because of her. Second, I forgive her for leaving me at the shelter. I know she did the best she could. Third, it's not your fault that I'm sick. These things happen, and it's nobody's fault. Fourth, I want you to be happy. I know it will be hard, but promise me you'll try. And lastly, take care of Emma for me. She's the sister I always wanted to have, and I know you'll love each other very much. Daddy, thank you for giving me the best moments of my life. I love you forever, Sarah. Everyone in the restaurant was crying when Richard finished reading. Now the other letter, Uncle Richard, said Emma, wiping away her tears. Richard opened the second envelope. Daddy, if you're reading this, it means I got better. How wonderful. This means I can now grow up with you, study, travel, see the world. But before anything, there's something very important we need to do. Find Emma. She's my best friend, and I can't be happy knowing she's still alone at the shelter. Promise me we'll go get her and take care of her too. She deserves to have a family just as much as I do. and promise me we'll visit Mommy at the cemetery together? I want her to see how beautiful I've grown and what a wonderful father you are. Daddy, I'm so happy I'm going to get better. I can't wait to live our family life. With love, Sarah." The silence that followed was profound. Emma was the first to speak. "Sarah thought of everything, didn't she?" "She sure did, little one," replied Richard. "She planned our family even without being able to live to see it." Mrs. Reynolds wiped her eyes with a handkerchief. "Sarah always said that true love doesn't end when a person leaves, that it keeps creating good things in the world." "It's true," agreed Emma. "Her love created our family." Richard carefully put the letters away. "Mrs. Reynolds, would you like to be part of this family that Sarah created? Emma is going to need a loving grandmother." "A grandmother? You took care of Sarah and Emma when they needed it most. To me, that makes you part of our family." Mrs. Reynolds began to cry with emotion. "I would love to be Emma's grandma." "Grandma Reynolds!" shouted Emma, jumping up to hug the woman. "And you know what, Grandma Reynolds," said Richard, "Sarah was also right about visiting Rebecca. How about we all go together next weekend?" "Can we really?" "We can. Sarah wanted Rebecca to know how beautiful she grew up and what a wonderful father I am. Let's fulfill that wish of hers." The following Saturday, the new family, Richard, Jennifer, Melissa, Emma, and Mrs. Reynolds, traveled to the countryside where Rebecca was buried. The cemetery was small and simple, very different from where Sarah rested. Emma had prepared a special letter for Rebecca, and everyone brought flowers. "Grandma Rebecca," began Emma, kneeling before the grave. "I'm Emma, Sarah's best friend. I came to tell you that your daughter was the bravest and most caring person I've ever known. You can be proud of her." Richard approached and placed his letter next to Emma's. "Rebecca, it's Richard. I came to tell you that our Sarah became an angel on earth. She healed my broken heart and gave me a new family. Thank you for giving me the most wonderful daughter in the world, even if for just a little while." Jennifer, who was visibly emotional, approached. "Rebecca, I'm Jennifer, Richard's wife. I want to apologize for not understanding the love you shared. Sarah taught me that loving someone means wanting their happiness. I promise to care for the family she created." Melissa was next. "Mrs. Miller, I'm Melissa, Emma's mother. Thank you for raising a daughter who taught my girl about courage and friendship. Sarah changed our lives forever. Finally, Mrs. Reynolds." "Rebecca, it's Mercedes. I took care of Sarah at the shelter and want you to know she always spoke of you with so much love. She understood why you had to leave and never blamed you." When they were leaving the cemetery, Emma stopped and looked back. "Uncle Richard, do you think Sarah and Grandma Rebecca are together now?" "I think so, little one. And I think they're happy seeing our family united." "I think so, too." 6 months later, the Anderson family's life had completely transformed. Emma was studying at one of the best schools in New York City, Melissa had started nursing school, and Richard had resumed leadership of his company with renewed energy. Jennifer had become a devoted aunt, teaching Emma to play piano and taking her to museums and exhibitions. The coldness that characterized her personality had given way to a caring and present woman. The mansion, once silent and formal, was now always full of conversations, laughter, and music. Mrs. Reynolds visited every week, bringing stories from the shelter and helping Emma with homework. Richard had created a foundation in Sarah's name, aimed at helping orphaned children and improving conditions at municipal shelters. Emma actively participated in the projects, always remembering the needs she had experienced. One Sunday, while the whole family was gathered in the garden for lunch, Emma asked a question that surprised everyone. "Uncle Richard, do you think Sarah knew all this would happen?" "What do you mean, little one?" "She knew I would find you at the hospital. She knew you would heal. She knew we would become a family." Richard thought for a moment. "You know, Emma, I think Sarah had a special wisdom. She understood that true love always finds a way to happen." "How so?" "She loved you and wanted you to have a family. She loved me and wanted me to be a father. She loved Jennifer, and wanted her to discover how good it is to have children to love. And Grandma Reynolds. Sarah knew Mrs. Reynolds needed to keep caring for children, even after retiring from the shelter. And my mom. Your mum deserved to have the chance to study and fulfill her dreams. Emma smiled. So Sarah was like a fairy godmother. She was like an angel, little one. An angel who arranged everything so people who needed to love each other could find one another. Jennifer, who was listening while arranging the table flowers, approached. Emma, want to know something I never told you? What, Aunt Jennifer? The day you showed up at the hospital, I was in Dr. Roberts's office discussing the possibility of disconnecting Uncle Richard's life support. Everyone fell silent. What do you mean? The doctors said there was no more hope of recovery, that it would be better to let him go in peace. But you didn't do it. I didn't, because when I reached the room, you were there. And for the first time in 3 months, Uncle Richard was responding to stimuli. Richard held Emma's hand. You saved my life, little one. No, Uncle Richard, Sarah saved it. She sent me to you. Melissa, who had been silent, also joined the conversation. Emma, do you want to know why I was working at the hospital that night? Why, Mum? Because a week before Mrs. Reynolds had called me saying a family was interested in adopting you. I was desperate, afraid of losing you. Afraid? I got that job at the hospital to save money quickly and prove in court that I had the means to raise you. I wanted to make sure no one could ever take you away from me. And in the end, Sarah made sure you never lost Emma, said Mrs. Reynolds, who had arrived for lunch. She just gave you a bigger family. Richard stood up and went to the small altar they had set up in the garden with pictures of Sarah and Rebecca. Sarah, thank you for planning everything so carefully. Thank you for giving me the most beautiful family in the world. He returned to the table and looked at each person present. You know something? Today marks exactly 1 year since I woke up from the coma. 1 year? Asked Emma. 1 year. And I want you to know that this was the happiest year of my life. Mine too, said Jennifer. And mine, added Melissa. And mine, concluded Mrs. Reynolds. Emma stood up and ran to Sarah's altar. Sarah, thank you for creating the best family in the world. Thank you for teaching me that love never ends. And thank you for choosing the best dad in the world for both of us. She ran back to the table and hugged Richard. Uncle Richard, can I ask you a favor? Of course, sweetie. Can I call you Dad? Richard felt tears streaming down his face. It would be the greatest honor of my life. And can I call Aunt Jennifer Mom Jennifer? Yes, you can, replied Jennifer, also emotional. And Grandma Reynolds will still be my grandma forever. Forever and ever, confirmed Mrs. Reynolds. Emma looked at Melissa. And you will always be my heart mom who loved me first and taught me to be brave. Forever, my daughter. At that moment, a yellow butterfly landed on the table, right next to Sarah's portrait. Look, shouted Emma. It's yellow like Sarah's favorite flowers. The butterfly stayed perched for a few seconds, as if observing the gathered family, and then flew toward the blue sky. Sarah came to visit us, whispered Emma. I think she really did, agreed Richard. She came to see how happy and united her family is. That afternoon, while everyone helped clean up after lunch, Emma made one more special discovery. She found an envelope hidden behind Sarah's picture frame, with her name written on it. Dad, there's a letter here for me. Another letter from Sarah? It looks like it. Emma carefully opened it and read aloud. Dear Emma, if you're reading this, it's because you found your family. I knew you would find it. I knew Daddy would love you like I love you. I knew you would heal each other. Now I want to ask you something very special. Take care of Daddy for me. He is very loving, but sometimes he gets sad alone. Take care of Aunt Jennifer, too. She has a very beautiful heart beneath the coolness. And most importantly, never forget that you deserve all the love in the world. You are special, brave, and smart. You will achieve everything you dream of. I love you forever. Your heart sister, Sarah. P.S. There's one more surprise for you inside your favorite teddy bear. Emma ran to her room and came back with a teddy bear that Richard had given her during their first month together. Inside it, she found a small box with a bracelet identical to the one Sarah had given her, but with a small engraved plate. For Emma, with eternal love, Sarah and Dad. Sarah asked me to have this bracelet made, explained Richard. She wanted you to have something that represented her love and my love for you. When did she ask for this? During our last conversation, she said she wanted to make sure you would always remember that you were loved. Emma put the bracelet on her wrist and admired it, sparkling in the sunlight. Now I have 2 bracelets, one for friendship with Sarah and one for family love. And now you have a family that will love you forever, said Jennifer, kissing the girl's forehead. At the end of that special day, when everyone had already retired to their rooms, Richard went to the garden for one last moment of reflection. He looked at the stars and whispered, "Sarah, my daughter, thank you for teaching me that love is stronger than any pain. Thank you for giving me Emma to love. I promise I will be the best father I can be for her, as I tried to be for you." A gentle breeze swayed the garden flowers, and Richard felt a deep peace in his heart. He knew Sarah was at peace, knowing that her mission had been accomplished. From that day on, the Anderson family became known in the city not only for their successful business, but for the genuine love they showed each other and their dedication to helping other orphaned children through the Sarah Foundation. Emma grew up surrounded by love, studied pediatric medicine and specialized in pediatric oncology, always remembering Sarah's teachings about courage and hope. Melissa became a nurse and worked alongside her daughter, caring for sick children. Jennifer discovered a vocation for education and created a scholarship program for underprivileged youth. Mrs. Reynolds continued visiting the family every week until her final days, always telling stories from the shelter and advising the new children the family helped. And Richard, who had found in Emma the reason to live that he thought he had lost forever, dedicated the rest of his life to being the father Sarah always knew he would be. Years later, when Emma became a doctor and saved the life of her first patient, an orphaned girl with leukemia, she looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Sarah, for showing me that every ending can be a new beginning, and that true love always finds a way to save those who need saving." End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story about how love can overcome any obstacle and create families where we least expect them. Do you believe Sarah really planned everything from the beginning? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. If this story moved you, don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that will touch your heart. Thank you so much for your company.